Om Shanti. Pita Shri Prajapita Brahma Baba's Life History, Part 43. Title: Day of the Daughters. Was it an accident that most of Baba's children in the beginning were women? Or that he put women exclusively in charge of the yajna? Of course, God does nothing by accident. Many reasons can be assumed. For one thing, it was a question of physical safety. If it had been brothers who first went out in the world to announce Baba's revolutionary spiritual teachings, they would have been attacked and killed. Coming from the mouths of young girls, the knowledge seemed less threatening, and even Baba's enemies were forced to act with some restraint. It cannot be strongly emphasized how much opposition arose against the spiritual university. Baba spoke truthfully and clearly about this diseased state of life in modern India, the corruption which affected every soul. The truth was painful. Moreover, by demanding purity of every one of his children, something never attempted by any religious movement in history, those obsessed with sexual desires felt their very identities threatened. Baba was intent on enabling us to stop identifying ourselves with our bodies. He made us transcend the false ego structure in which we had been trapped. On the whole, the male ego was a greater enemy than the female. Yet, even more importantly, Shiv Baba had by his very presence challenged the authority of every group. Not to mention all the scholars, priests, philosophers and scientists in every corner of the world. Shiv Baba had announced himself as a supreme, almighty authority. He is not simply a high soul. He is a supreme soul, the one and only God. No one had ever said that before. Even the gurus who claimed to be God were careful to qualify it by saying that God was in everyone. Were they all wrong and Baba right? Should the entire body of Indian scriptures be thrown out of the window? Who would dare say such a thing? Usually it was a young girl sitting peacefully, dressed all in white, sweet and demure. Shiv Baba is the gentlest being in the universe. Yet, simply by his now proven existence, every soul who came in contact was forced suddenly into making the most crucial and difficult decision of his life. For, if Baba was God, then one should instantly surrender to him. On the other hand, if Baba was not God, then he was committing a great sin by making such a claim and ought to be opposed. Shiva's descent therefore divided humanity into two camps, those who loved God and those who did not. Very often Father Shiva spoke about his very special son, Christ. Christ had performed his role on earth in total purity. He had reflected magnificently the virtues of his Father. He had even instructed his followers to pray only to our Father who art in heaven. Christ's role was different from Baba's. His job was to establish a religion, to draw more souls down from the soul world so they could play their roles on earth. Just as God the Father was now sharing a body with Brahma Baba, in the same way Christ had entered the body of Jesus. It was Jesus who suffered on the cross, not Christ. The pure Son of God left the body early and went on and took rebirth to help guide his fledgling vision into maturity. Many more secrets about Christ and the other religious founders have been revealed by Baba. For most of recorded history, men had dominated women in religious as well as worldly matters. Baba had come to bring that state of affairs to a close. So, he put his authority into the capable hands of females. It was the day of the daughters. The switch of roles had a remarkably therapeutic effect on all of Baba's children, with women in front and the men working powerfully behind the scenes. Mutual respect was fostered and purity more easily maintained. The daughters learned to deliver the lectures, to sit on the gati, that is, the seat of the Guru, and lead meditation. They were given the authority to read the Murli in centers around the world. It was daughters who went into trance to visit Baba in the subtle world. These women learned to tolerate the adversity and to remain unaffected by praise, which is even harder. Their performance was so astounding that based on what they accomplished in the last confluence age 5,000 years ago, women have been idolized as a memorial even until today. In early pagan rituals, virgins were sacrificed, in an echo of the sacrifice of fragility and vice into the yajna which Baba's daughters had made. Even in the West, women have been the traditional keepers of the highest human values. Purity, chastity, and modesty were always terms of praise bestowed on the fair sex, who, for those reasons, were placed on pedestals until modern times when they, along with men, tumbled down into the mud of lust. Today it is no longer even admitted that lust is a sin. This is the measure of how far we have fallen. Now it is women who are once more leading the way to restore these values. The brothers also perform nobly on the battlefield, however, and so are memorialized in a host of scriptures. Since they gave up their monkey-like desires, they are remembered in the form of Hanuman, the monkey god who served the Lord. In the Ramayana, it is told that God required an army of monkeys to help him defeat the evil Ravan. In the Mahabharata, the story of the 5 heroic Pandavas is recorded. They were only a handful, yet they defeated the world with the help of God. Now the real Pandavas were defeating the evil army of vices within themselves and thus transforming the earth. One brother who refused marriage because he wanted to be pure was locked into a barrel of rats. His angry father left him there for days, but Baba's child did not give in. Another brother from a small village was publicly tormented for spreading Baba's message. He was tied up, blindfolded, and placed backwards on a donkey. His face was blackened and he had to suffer the jeers of the community as he was led through the town in shame. All the while though, Shiv Baba was with him, making his child experience the bliss of heaven. When they took off the young man's blindfold, he was smiling contentedly. Another brother, Nirvair, who now holds a major post in Madhuban, was brought up as a Sikh. He had been trained as a naval engineer and was serving in the military when he recognized Baba. He wanted to be free of that violent life immediately, but the Navy refused to discharge him. There was a border war going on at that time, and he was sent to the front. Before he left, Baba told him, "Don't worry, you won't get hurt." Nirvair's faith in Baba was total. One day he leaped up in the midst of an enemy attack, intoxicated with the knowledge that he would not be hurt. A hail of bullets was fired from the other side, but not one touched him. Brother Nirvair was shortly released from the service. His officers thought he was crazy. From Shiv Baba's incorporeal perspective, all souls are brothers. It is only after coming into the body that we identify as male or female. Even then, we wear a series of these costumes of flesh, some as male and some as female. Only Shiv Baba is beyond gender, and even though he applies to himself the masculine pronoun, he makes it clear he is our mother as well as father. Sometimes he calls himself the husband, and then even his male children are happy to be his brides. In the past, though religion has been almost exclusively a male province, men alone performed as priests, rabbis, gurus, monks, popes, apostles, and prophets. It stunned the religious community when suddenly Baba's daughters arose. First by the score, then hundreds, then thousands. Powerful women were for the first time leading the way, living and teaching the most elevated ideals and contact with the authority of God Himself. Here was a unique phenomenon in His history. Here was a unique phenomenon in history. In the Hindu scriptures, it is written that Krishna had 16,000 queens. But the truth is that this refers to Shiv Baba's act of attracting his Shaktis, the future goddesses, and making them worthy of ruling the world. Through these holy daughters, the balanced, complete, perfect human personality was being reintroduced on earth. Next title, Boarding the Rocket. Baba used to say, "The desires of the senses have made you unhappy for many births. Are these good things? If you are unhappy because of them, why do you not get rid of them? You remove mud from your homes. Why do you keep it in your minds? Do you consider these vices a great treasure? Children, give all these dirty things to me. Then I will put heaven in the palm of your hand. Children, I do not want anything else from you. You only have to give me these useless thoughts of yours. Don't hold on to them. They have no value. They have spoiled your whole life. This world, which was once heaven, has become hell." Shiv Baba's flute of knowledge played on, but the people of India still believed Krishna was God and that he played an ordinary musical flute. They failed to grasp the significance of Baba's words, so the people still search everywhere for God, making up theories to explain his absence, while at the same time they say he is omnipresent. Yet he had already arrived in the body of an ordinary man, and he was performing the greatest miracle of all, creating the new world once more. Brahma Baba will take rebirth as Krishna, the loveliest of deities. It is no wonder Krishna is confused with God. One of those who heard Baba speak when he came to Delhi was moved to write the following poem. The title of the poem, The Words of the Father. In these sweet, priceless words, in these very words, the whole truth of the world is stored. The mind and the power are awakened once more. By these words of the Father of all, in these words is the deep inner voice of the yearning of humanity age after age, the answer to the questions of all. The intellect rises like a great balloon when the pure thoughts of Shiva have expanded the mind, and the weight of illusion dissolves. The soul swings in the swing of joy, borne aloft by our Father's words. Many used to ask Baba, why does the world exist? It exists to make us happy. When his children begin to drown in sorrow, then he reappears to make us happy again. Baba is the supreme psychologist, making complicated people simple once more, destroying the neurotic labyrinths we have built in our minds. Serious scholars would meet him and break out into song. Old men would begin to dance like young boys. World-weary artists would begin to create again. In fact, many people who had never written a line of poetry before suddenly found themselves composing poetry. It was not the poetry of despair or quest, but that of ultimate success. I have climbed aboard the rocket, and I am going beyond the world. The gravity has dissipated. The clouds are left below. All is clear and calm and silent. Supersenses joy. The sun of knowledge shines before me, and every problem is solved. Floating free in the space of love, I approach ever closer to God. Who was writing these verses? Who was singing? Who was smiling so broadly? not common individuals, nor the recluse or untouchable ones. Conservative, down-to-earth people, lawyers, doctors, businessmen, engineers, scientists were suddenly smiling as they never had before, telling their friends a ridiculous story that God had landed on earth. No one knew what to make of it. Baba belongs to us. He's the world's greatest supernatural resource. When every other energy source runs out, Baba will still be there, the eternal beacon to the world. Children, he gently calls us, come and sit in my lap. Children rush to sit in the lap of a phony Santa Claus. Now, we are offered the infinite lap of the real Santa Claus. Was ever so much bliss offered to so many and accepted by so few? Om Shanti.